Hello, everybody. My name is Robert, and I'll be discussing Hurricane Ida that took place in 2021. In this PowerPoint, I'll be discussing the background, challenges, actions taken, and how effective they were, and what was learned from this disaster. So, summary/background. Hurricane Ida was a Category 4 and made landfall on August 29, 2021. It mostly hit Louisiana, but also affected New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. This storm went from a tropical storm to a major hurricane in less than 3 days. The hurricane hit speeds of over 150 miles an hour, making it one of the strongest to hit the Gulf Coast. As a result of this hurricane, over 100 people were dead and roughly $75 billion in damages. Some challenges faced in the recovery aspect. Some long-term power outages, as this was in August, there was 90-degree heat starting to develop. There was a need for food and water, and people couldn't receive it because of all the flooding, as well as COVID-19. The storm mixed COVID-19 patients with storm patients in hospitals. So the actions taken, we'll be going over 3 different levels: the local, state, and federal. For the local, they had opened shelters. These were temporary housing for people who had lost their homes. At the state level, the governor's emergency declaration and coordination, which pretty much mobilized the National Guard. And then federal, which was the FEMA and interagency coordination, which brought resources to support the recovery. Now let's talk about how effective they were. The shelters, they were successfully able to house thousands of people, as they had opened early enough to save these people. Now on the other side, some of these shelters had reached full capacity, meaning some people would have to be sent somewhere else and out into the storm where they would most likely not make it. For the state level, where they had the state coordination, they had quick activation of the National Guard, but had trouble coordinating the large amount of forces. And for federal, the FEMA coordination was able to coordinate a large amount of deliveries, giving shelters a lot of resources to be able to house more people. But in the end, after the storm was done, a slow long-term housing support pretty much made it so that people wouldn't be able to move back to where they lived, and left them out of homes for much longer. So the first lesson that they learned was to improve their infrastructure. Pretty much meaning put as many transmission lines underground as possible. This would protect against wind damage, help sustain economic activity, but it comes with cons, as in it'll take longer to repair, could come in contact with the gas lines and be 5 times as much money, and the improvement to leaves on the coastal areas, which will start with the low-lying areas, pretty much protecting them against any waves coming in and flash flooding. Lesson 2 pretty much is business preparations. They would watch the news to see what happens with the storm, create plans for a worse much earlier instead of waiting until right then and there, and be prepared. And then prepare for these long power outages by having an emergency preparedness kit, as we discussed earlier in the semester. Basics like food, water, flashlight, batteries for the flashlight, portable stove. There could also be There could also be other items like more blankets, more clothes in case anything gets wet. Just anything that you need to pretty much prepare for the worst. And that'll be it. Here's my references, all the sources I use, and then there's two more sources on this slide as well. Thank you. Goodbye.